We're live. Wednesday.
Welcome to the Scale Builders Guild.
And Harley Designs. Wednesday live takeover.
Episode 49.
49 in a row.
49er.
49. Welcome back to another Wednesday. Tonight, this should be a good one too. It should be. We're putting a lot of pressure on, but tonight we will be bringing Matt Kearney on as a guest, who was one of the co-founders of Axial when it all started. And he stayed in. I mean, he was there through all of the phases.
All the phases. He made it all the way to the last phase, which is the current phase.
Current phase, at least.
He's been in all the phases.
So, looking forward to... Let's have everybody
Post up
check
where you are from. Yep. Tell us where you're watching from and how many inches of precipitation you have.
Yes, there you go. Perfect.
Some more than others, I imagine.
And the last thing you drank.
Oh, great choice. Great choice. Everything's good, I think, on my end.
So far, so good over here. We'll see if that continues. We never know with the wonderful internet.
True enough.
But
so far, so good. How is your week going, Josh?
Pretty good so far. We've been busy. We've been working with a new robot. So it's currently in the installation phase. So
is it CPU, a neural net processor, a learning computer?
So that's another interesting. It's always fun.
No, that's a no, I guess.
I mean, I'm not sure what movie that's from, other than Terminator.
Yeah, it's Terminator. Terminator
2. Okay, I didn't remember which one. T2 was the best Terminator, though.
Yeah, agreed. 100%.
What do you know? You have decent taste.
Something we agree on.
I know. Like,
well, that's it. This show's over.
Especially in a movie, like, oh, this is going to go downhill from here. Like,
it's not Batman.
Yes,
yeah. Not super busy week for me. So I've actually had a lot of time in the workshop, which is fantastic. I'm sure you can see behind me.
Yeah.
Some cool stuff happening there.
And I've had no time in here, basically. So that means that I've had and I'm very jealous of, you keep sending me the pictures of that truck and its paint. I'm just like, oh, I've got to get, we're getting there.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it so far.
So yes, it is going to look fantastic.
Yeah.
Very much excite.
Very great.
Brazen Scale RC says, Josh, are you going to the comp in Folsom early March? Yes, I do plan to go. Looking forward to that, actually. And I read that real quick because I heard that you were going to make the trip out to see us in sunny California. So
which one's that now?
It's basically just a local comp up here. Granted, any local comp seems like a... I mean, the scene out here is pretty big.
Yeah, I was going to say at this point, that scene in Northern California is it's big.
Yeah.
So that'll be like, what do you get, like 100 people?
Yeah, you can pretty easily. So
yeah,
I'm thinking, I was like, what would be a terrible idea for Friday night build the night before would be to put together
build a comp truck just for that event.
Exactly.
It's not a bad idea.
I mean, just that night before, I'll try and gather all the parts.
Yep.
And I will just
nothing can be built. Nothing can be built. You got to start
assembled.
Scratch.
I will source all of the parts, but I'm running out of time really, because it's not next weekend, but the weekend after, basically. So that's 2.5 weeks from now.
Oh, lots of time.
It's not that hard, but
just pay for express shipping, Josh.
I know, right? On all the things.
Yeah. And just put it all in. It's like, this is the most expensive, quickest build I've ever done.
Exactly. Flat rail comp truck, the whole thing, Ben.
Oh God.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yikes.
So, full out night before. But the nice thing is that people who run flat rail chassis usually don't care if anything looks good. So, it'll blend in.
Brandon.
Like
Sam C, thanks for the £14.99.
so,
Lad.
yes, thank you. Same Sam C, 2 a.m. where he's at, and I would like to thank Pleco Nation for $3.99 before the stream even started. Like
What?
30 minutes plus before the stream started.
That's amazing. That's great. I love it. That's cool.
So yeah. So yeah, no, I am thinking about that would be a fun Friday night build the night before.
Yeah, you should definitely do it. You know what I would do is not make it, because there's no way I could get a comp truck built in an evening that I would be happy with.
You know, I mean, I'm thinking paint and everything.
Oh, God.
I'll open the window here. Let's just hope it's not raining.
Just hold it out the window.
Yeah.
Give it a bit of a spray. It's a great idea. I love it. Yeah, mine would be like, well, I could just glue 18 bedrolls to it.
Yeah.
But I can't do that, guys.
So
certainly wouldn't be flat rail either. It'd be like, well, I'm going to start this TF2 tonight.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Scale Crawler Fab Shop donation, $19.90. Flat Rail Truck Fund, Comp Truck Fund.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
Plasta Dip It. There we go.
Oof.
Here's one that you don't. HO Scale Train says, "Hi from frozen Dallas, Texas." Like,
you don't hear that very often.
You do not. You definitely do not.
But sounds like he's got power, so that's...
Hey, there's that.
Plus.
He's one step ahead of the game. Yeah. So either that or at least his phone was charged.
His phone.
Yeah.
His phone was charged. And I'm not
Scale,
laughing.
I'll donate the rails. Hey, you know what, Brett? You know what? I might take you up on it.
Oh, no, Josh, no.
I think it would be fun.
Don't do it. I mean, do the one night build, but don't do flat rail. Come on.
You got to go all out. Cutting board chassis. Oh my God. Yes. Gigawatt RC is old school. That was OG RCC days. Go to Walmart, you buy yourself the $2 plastic
3/4 inch.
Yep.
Or
the
half
thick,
inch.
Yeah, half inch probably. Maybe 3/8, whatever. But yeah, and you would just get that, you trace it out with a Sharpie and you'd use your jigsaw. Brian Sherwood, I'll pay more if you answer your emails. I usually respond to your emails, Brian. It's been a busy robot week.
He's busy making sure Skynet doesn't go sentient.
Yeah, exactly. It's
self-aware.
It's fun.
Can you imagine that thing just like must eradicate Josh, and it's like it just spins around and just does this. Can't quite reach.
Yeah, it's like when people are like, you get hit by a train. It's like, where it's gonna, like, just step back.
Yeah, don't get
hit
hit by a
robot
train.
Arm. It's just like it can only reach so far.
Yet where I worked at the auto factory, there were still a lot of robot related injuries.
Yeah, I mean, I could
My dad
see it.
told me a story, this real quick, but it was one of these things where it's one of these big, giant sort of like skid robots that just like picks up a whole chassis, lifts it up, and then just like spins it and then places it down over here. And one day it just stops working, and they swore they turned it off. They all they're kind of like standing around. They're like, I don't know what's going on. Like there's a guy sitting in the chassis as it's like just, not moving. And they're like, I don't know. And they get out, and within like 10 seconds, it just goes whoop, bam. They're like, don't do that again.
Yeah, that's
a union grievance.
Yeah, ours are within a confine at least, so they're within a box,
right?
Because they lift up a pallet. Well, we call them a pallet. They're a metal disc of fixtures, and then they put it in a machine. Then they take it out, put it away, and grab a new one.
Was there a man that you've eliminated?
No.
Is there like a job that you eliminated by putting that robot in?
No.
Or is this just increasing efficiencies?
Being able to increase production without adding more people.
Yes.
So,
And this robot doesn't complain.
Right?
It gets pretty hot in that factory. I've been there.
That it can. That it absolutely can.
I once went there, and Josh was just walking around in his underpants. Looks like work's getting done. All right. Check it out, ladies.
Ladies?
I've been there. There's 2 ladies working there, and they're lovely.
True.
Very nice ladies. Putting up with you, they have to be lovely. Psycho 13 Garage, thanks for the $5. But Josh has to build the whole thing in the time it takes for flying cars to play all the way through.
Ooh, that might be tough. Maybe we just keep watching flying cars on repeat during it, and I just get it done as fast as possible, so I don't have to.
It's your own personal Groundhog Day.
Right, exactly. Dale C, don't lie. You totally replaced Cardboard Guy. Or did you just have so much cardboard you needed a dedicated guy for it?
It's actually just a cardboard folding robot.
Yeah.
It doesn't know how to do anything else. More boxes. Meep, meep.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was we do have we're gonna bring Matt on before now. Can you do your mail call with your
Yes. No. Sort of. I can sort of do mail call.
Yes.
Because there's a thing, something's coming out tomorrow.
I don't know about it, I don't think.
I know you don't. I don't tell you everything.
What a douche.
It's not a big thing. It's a good thing though, but it's not a big thing.
Okay.
The other thing that I got, you can sort of maybe see some of it down here, maybe not.
We can. You should start then.
Okay, I'll start with this. So EVGA sent me some new things. I got their new X17 Gaming Mouse.
Wireless.
Is it?
Wait, I thought we discussed this.
This one is not wireless. This one is wireless.
That's what I thought. I said
X17. There's an X20 that is.
Okay. I see.
Yes. And then they also sent me their new optical mechanical keyboard. So this is the less clicky one, so you won't like it.
I like all the click.
I know you do. But it's optical in that it's still a mechanical switch, but there's a little like laser light. It's broken now instead of.
That's how it tells.
And click. So it actually tells. It's faster than a traditional mechanical keyboard with all of the feel of a mechanical keyboard. And they've already got the WADs highlighted. Oops. There we go. WADs highlighted. So, when you're gaming.
WASD.
WADs.
Exactly. Cody Oscar David, thank you. He says, I keep stripping servo horns on the 20K servo, Amazon 20K servo. Thoughts? What servo horn are you using?
If you're using the ones that come with.
Yeah, don't use cheap servo horns.
Friends don't let friends use.
Vanquish servo horns. I mean, I'm not just saying that but just because they're pretty much as good as it gets.
Tekin ones are pretty good too.
Tekin ones are not bad.
Yep.
They're not as good.
Other thing I got, this is real quick. Quack RC, thanks for the $5. Stoked for the stream, guys. Dude, I still can't thank you enough for yesterday.
You finally got to his photo.
Finally did his photo.
You finally did the F100.
Shout out meant a lot, man. We got snow. It's gone. All right. The other thing I got, thank you very much, Quack RC, and it was my pleasure to do that. But I started building my Prusa.
Yes. I'm very excited for you on that.
It's so much work. I was on it pretty much from about 3:30 on until about 10 minutes before the stream started. And there's a lot of parts. The extruder. Oh my goodness, the extruder. It's involved, but it's very cool. And it's smaller than I thought, but I'm glad it's so small because it'll actually fit a lot better.
Fit well in your very cold cellar.
Yeah. The potatoes aren't sprouting, so that's how cold it is.
Yes. So I think I only got one thing this week. Well, no, two. They're actually both in front of me. I totally forgot. So, both are blue. First one, small. I got some stuff from RC Speed Secrets, and this is a titanium screw kit.
Are you allowed to tell us? Are these like
we have to whisper about it. So I got the titanium screw kit. This is actually for like a B6 point something, but it's gonna work on my DR10.
Oh.
And then I got the fancy, like super uber fancy knurled turnbuckles, and wheel nuts.
All this for a car you don't drive.
Haven't driven is different than don't drive.
No, not really.
It is.
No, because
I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying that it's different.
It's not different enough.
So
that's cool. Titanium screws for a car you don't drive.
Haven't driven.
Are you? Hey, so speaking of, you're going to that thingy to film it, right? The $25,000 runaway.
$30,000 possible.
Give me my money.
Yeah.
I would even have someone else collect it.
Yeah, I would give them
large person.
I would give them a check. Can I write you a check?
Yeah. Can I accept that in Venmo?
Cash at me. Paid in Bitcoin.
Give it to me in Fortnite bucks.
There you go. So I am going to that.
Yeah. Okay. So are you taking the car with you?
No. Do you see how good it looks? I showed you the body before the stream.
Yeah, you don't want to
wreck that.
Most people are saying that they're on my team here. Don't drive.
Especially because I'm not registered to drive in that event. It's $100 buy-in, and
you're not going to win.
Right. And I'm going there to document. I'm going there to do a service to the people.
You're doing a service, all right.
Yeah.
A disservice by showing up.
Right. So, the other thing I got is much larger. I don't know. Did you see me drag it in here?
Right. I wasn't really paying attention because it was noisy.
That's good.
Is it a litter robot?
No, but
you got one, didn't you?
It shipped yesterday.
I shipped my litter.
Yeah, and that was because yesterday. Well, bought it on the 15th, which was Nicole and I's 10-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary, baby! Nothing says I love you like a litter robot. I'm sure that's the sort of thing I would get divorced for. Oh, what did you do?
I did a thing.
Why did you do it?
Let's not ask those questions. It was an impulse.
Yes. I have very little self-control too, but I don't own one of those.
I know you don't.
It would hit the curb.
It was a deal.
Oh, was this a used pickup?
No.
You get this at the flea market?
No.
What do you mean?
It's still a deal, but I just say it was new. It's new. You can see, it's still pristine.
Damn, son.
I know.
So what's the plan? Are you going to race it against your TRX-6?
I don't know. I'm going to drive them both at the same time.
You're not going to be that guy anymore, are you?
What?
You're going to start a new YouTube channel? Josh Speed.
You were right. Yeah, no. I don't know yet. Don't worry about it. But
you don't even know why you bought it.
No, I don't, for sure.
Did this come from someone, or did it come from somewhere?
It came from somewhere.
Oh, so you bought it one night. You were in a drunken haze. You said,
No.
you know what I need, you baloney.
You see, so what happened was
Josh Speed.
Joe Moosejaw,
yes,
Professor Moosejaw,
Professor Mischa, the smartest man alive,
sent me a text. And he said, "Hey, what time are you getting off work? He's planning on going to the hobby shop to get some more paint, and I could pick up the drag body, which sits here in the corner."
Yep.
And I said, "Sure, I'll meet you there." And then
one thing led to another, and I walked out of there with, which one is that? The infraction?
Limitless.
Limitless, right? Although, let's be honest, they should have called it Limitless within reason. Because there's gonna be a point where you reach the limit with that car.
Not with it. I mean, so yes.
I mean, you might not, because it's very rare that you drive these things.
Right.
So
I mean, yeah, but it was such a good deal.
Alex Callie goes limitless, but actually some limits, like physics.
Like physics.
Limited adjacent.
RC Dave charged up, says, "Oh my God, I have one. I have one too. We can be friends now, Josh." And RC Dave, also local. So
there you go.
There we go.
Guys
We're gonna
can
have to
race them against each other.
RC Dave charged up. Thank you for the day. He says, "Wait till I submit my J Concepts Ford Expedition photo to Matt's Lightroom Live."
Oof. I'll happily correct it. Anything I can do to make that body look better. They should have carried on in the Lloyd tradition, though, and named it something ridiculous.
I know. You know, so I was immediately corrected in the comments, of course, as expected. The bounty hunter and she beast, or whatever the other one of those is a Ford Expedition. However, when you just type Ford Expedition monster truck, it didn't pop up. So whatever.
Okay.
Whatever.
I don't know what you're talking about. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. I still 2005. At that point, like, why do you have to put 2005? Why can't you just say it's like it's a Ford Expedition?
We paid for the license. We're going to use all the words.
We're using all the words.
Like, what do you think? They must have a friend that works loosely in this like Ford licensing area, right? Where they're like,
they're like a friend that they went to high school with, though. And he's always like, "Hey," he's like, "Can I get another license, man?" He's like, "Dude, I just gave you one." He's like, "I know, but it was like a 79 Ford." He's like, "Dude, like,
I don't know. Look, I can give you.
I got this. I found this one's in my desk. 2005 Ford Expedition. Like, is that okay?
Penned it up. I penned it up back in 2005 when this truck came out, and I thought to myself, maybe there's somebody with like an HPI Savage that wants the Expedition body, and I'll write up the contract.
Somebody returned this one in 2006, and they're like, "This is out of style now. Sorry." And it's been sitting on the shelf ever since.
It's such a weird choice.
Quack RC, thank you, by the way.
Kudos to them for doing it.
Yeah, because there is solid axle monster truck guys that are like, "I want the Bounty Man body. Dog the Bounty Man.
K9 the Bounty Human." See, okay. I think, and I put this out to the audience, I think we should get Jay from J Concepts on the show.
Jason, you know what? I'm afraid. Because
don't be afraid. He'll probably take Jason, all of our ideas. Yeah, it is Jason.
Jason Rona, I believe it's anyway.
Yeah, I met him 1 year.
I think I met him too. I'm thinking it was best that he probably didn't know who I was.
At this point, probably. You've probably sold more bodies than you think you have.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
probably people who don't like you.
Yeah.
People who don't like you watch the show and they're like, "Ooh, I'm going to stick it to Josh and I'm going to buy 2 Lloyds."
What now?
How about that? Huh?
So I do believe he is going to be at Vegas for the drag race.
Yeah, because I think he has like a special bounty prize, doesn't he?
Oh, I don't know that.
Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. The Tekin guys, they've got a bonus prize if you use their gear.
5K if the winner is using Tekin electronics.
Mm-hmm. It has to be both ESC and motor, I believe.
That is correct. But
yeah, that, you know what? That would be interesting if you could get a whole bunch of other people on board with like these kind of bonus doodads.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, like, I know Jens Ace has $500. There's a bunch, you know, some of the chassis guys, MKS servos. It's
crazy. Jerry's Old Guy Review, great channel name. Get him, get Jason. I would love to know how a J Concepts brain works.
You know, I would love to, actually, just because, like, it's an RC.
So awesome.
I mean, anybody working in RC is, to me, going to be interesting.
So, what were you thinking? Just on everything.
Were you sick that day? And they just released it without telling you?
Was it like Secret Boss Day, but like you switched so someone else was the boss for a day?
So, like, we've named things in ridiculous ways too, but we hide them. You know, like, we released some wheels at one point. You remember the old KMC 795s? They were 2.2. They looked kind of Brodozer-ish. Those wheels like didn't really sell very well, and we had a lot of blanks left. Yeah. So I drew up a wheel face that we could use that blank for, and it was kind of that vintage style wheel that we called the SHR. So remember, if you kind of like a 5 anyway. When we cut the first prototype, Steve, the one of the original founders, he looks at it and he goes, "Oh, that kind of looks like one of my high school rims." And I go, "Cool. That's the SHR now for Steve's high school rim." And now the SHR wheels. There they are.
Mm-hmm. I think Blue Dooley is digging a little bit here. He goes, J Concepts is full of people who are sick of Jeeps and Toyotas.
I mean,
well, that might be true, but they've still made some very questionable choices.
The Lloyd, pretty sure that's a Jeep.
Oh yeah, that is a Jeep.
I mean,
true enough.
But you know what? Still a good example, because like, we're sick of Jeeps, so we're gonna make this like
Jeep.
You're right. You hate Jeeps. you hate them and everything they've stood for.
Oh boy! All right. What time is it? 9:30. Should we get our special guest on the show? All right. So I got a lot of questions for him.
All right. Adding. All right. So I tested with him earlier. This should, in theory, work seamlessly.
Gosh, I hope so.
Hello, Matt.
Getting you in here. Stand by. Oh, you. All right.
I'm watching you guys on another computer, and it looks like my internet's way better.
Well, okay, but here's the thing. If you're watching on my channel, I look awesome. If you're watching me on Josh's channel, I look like I came from 1995.
Oh, yeah, I am on his channel. So let me switch.
That's wrong. You're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong place. Welcome to the show, Matt. It's so great to see you. I haven't actually seen your face in some time. But
yeah, it's been a while.
It's good to see you, man. You're looking well. You're looking rested, and you're looking, not broken by this industry.
Oh yeah, well, I sometimes wish I was back in that industry, because my industry sucks right now.
Yeah, well, guess what?
Okay.
I think we're all in the
I had
same
to fix
boat.
my audio, but anyway, sorry. That obviously didn't. You should be. Everyone should be able to hear you on my end. So, Matt Kearney, if you don't know, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history with the RC industry?
All right. Well, I started in RC in 2000. I was going to school for graphic design. I had worked in marketing previously to that, and I got a job at a company called HPI, which was awesome. I started in the marketing department. I did that for about 2.5 years. I was about to leave because I was kind of fed up with my boss at the time.
Which was
who,
who?
looking back, actually was a good guy. Yeah. No, his name was Kent Clausen. And I mean, I credit him actually with teaching me how to look at a car and capture details that most people don't see. So he was difficult to work for, but he taught me a lot. And then from there, I went into the R&D department, and that's where I started my design career, designing RC cars. So after that, 2005, I left and helped form a company called Axial.
Oh, are they new?
Yeah, they were definitely new at the time. They were. I mean, we started just randomly with monster truck stuff and nitro engines and everything about monster truck stuff. Because we came from HPI. That's what was big and popular. Yeah. And it kind of grew from there into the crawler world, and it was either going to be a crawler or a nitro motorcycle. And
man, can you imagine where the company would be if you guys had went nitro motorcycle?
Flipping that coin. That's yeah.
I don't know. One or the other's gotta be.
What
good.
was your?
It was a. It was one of those things where we were, it was going to use one of our nitro motors. It was going to be a 28 to start, and then we were going to put the 32 in there. And for me, it had to be monster truck level performance of jumping and running. And actually, I was put on the project to begin with, and I decided that, before the project even started, I was like, let's give it to the other guy. I'm just not really that interested in this project, and I feel like the crawler thing is a little bit more interesting to me. And thankfully, Jeff said yes, and because at that point I was just an employee, right? I worked for them, and Jeff said yeah, and I remember the other engineer we had at the time. He had gotten together a nitro motorcycle. We went out to the track, and I brought my monster truck from HPI, and me and a guy named Paul Coleman, who was running our customer service at the time, were out running on the track, and we kept looking back, and it was Jeff Johns, this guy named Seth, who's the engineer, and another guy named Dave Kochi, who came from HPI and was helping us with sales.
I didn't know that he was on Axial.
Yeah, he was a consultant for us, like a sales consultant, because at the time he was working for Yamaha. And I just kept looking over, and they'd get the thing running. They'd drive it maybe 10 yards, and it'd fall over. And they'd have to run over and get it back up and get it running again. And I was just like, yeah, that's not that. And that was the end of that project.
I don't know about you guys, but that sounds pretty
I
good.
mean, there have been some RC motorcycles that have been passable.
This doesn't sound like
one of the best ones was like a Radio Shack Ricky Carmichael, like 5th scale. Duratrax.
When I was at
save your motorcycle talk for later, Josh.
Yeah, there was a guy at HPI that swore that motorcycles were it, right? And I bet him. I said, in 5 years, if motorcycles don't have an entire end cap at a big hobby store, you owe me a big steak dinner. And then the Duratrax bike came out, and it got kind of popular, and I was like, shit, I'm gonna have to buy this guy dinner. And but it didn't last very long, and it was gone before you knew it, and so.
What were your design projects at HPI?
The first project I worked on, I mean, wheels and tires to begin with. I mean, I had never done anything in CAD before. For me, it was an easy transition from graphic design to working in SolidWorks. I don't know why.
That's surprising.
But yeah, within like 2 weeks, I was designing tires and wheels and all kinds of option parts and stuff like that. But my first major project was to redo the MT, the Nitro MT that they had.
Is that like the RS4
so I worked on the Nitro
style?
Yeah, it was RS4 Nitro MT, and I did the MT2.
Gotcha.
Which was really just designing suspension and stuff like that. The next project after that was the Hellfire Project.
Oh yeah.
And I worked with a guy named Eric Schauber on that.
Was that the one that used the like Castle brushless systems?
No, this was all still way before brushless was big. Yeah, it was a Nitro. It was the first. It was actually the first purpose-designed Nitro truggy, race truggy. Everybody was converting at the time buggies into truggies, and this one was designed purposely from the very get-go as a truggy. And we did a lot of work on it, suspension geometry studies and stuff, and we made a ton of parts for the HPI Savage that changed the suspension to test our theories and stuff. And so that was a fun project. And then I left right before they shipped. Actually, like, I was supposed to leave in June. We delayed it 1 month, and then Axial actually sent me to the supplier to work with Eric to see if there was anything that he needed help with, because the supplier that helped start Axial was the one that was supplying for HPI. So they didn't want to make them pissed off. So I was actually over in Taiwan during that product ship point, and I didn't really need to be there. They didn't want me there, so it was kind of a
Blind Squirrel's asking, Did you actually get the steak dinner?
No. That guy ended up moving on. He went on to work for Atomic. And
Atomic made an RC motorcycle.
Venom.
They made a motorcycle.
Yeah, so he went on to work for Venom, right? Yep. Venom batteries, and then he was responsible for all that Venom crawler that they had, the motorcycle, that short course truck. And now I don't know what he's doing. He still lives out in Idaho, but I don't know what he's doing.
He's making RC motorcycles. That's what he's doing.
The Venom Creeper.
These are going to jump off any moment. Venom Creeper, I remember that.
It was not a wild success.
No.
That's
there's a question here about the Betty. We'll get into the SCX24 Betty later, because we're going to try to do a whole timeline here with Matt. And all the things that he's done that are probably responsible for most of our RC addictions. So you moved over to Axial. Axial started in nitro motors and wheels and tires, like accessories for other things. And I remember this because I caught the little mini documentary about this sort of early time. But you share it with us, Matt.
Yeah. So we when we entered the nitro motor market, like, none of us, we had a guy working for us that knew nitro motors, and he worked with somebody in Taiwan. They were the ones that were responsible for the motor design and performance and all that. I oversaw like the styling, and actually when I started there, I was marketing director. So like the logo, the look and feel of everything, like that was all under my either doing or direction. When we first started, I did everything. And then as we grew, we hired a designer, and I directed them, and it got to, and I looked for ways that, the RC industry for years has been severely impacted by tons and tons of competitors. So you have to find your niche of where can you compete. So we started looking at clutch bells, for instance. People went from 14 or 15 to 17. Well, I was like, well, let's do 12 to 22. And then we did washers, and then we started doing spacers, and then we started doing posts, and, and it was like, okay, well, let's give all of these people all of these little trinkets that they like on their cars. And then let's take it, one step further and give them even more options and choices. And then it just kind of grew from there, and the motors took off. The motors did phenomenal. Our entire approach was to try to sell direct to hobby shops, not go through distributors. Give the margin that the distributor would normally take to the hobby shop. But what ended up happening was the hobby shops were just so used to making a set percent on whatever size box, $5 or $10 or $20, whatever it was, that they didn't sell our product for the additional $20 or $30. They just sold it for what they were used to making. And so we had some guys that were selling, thousand motors, every couple months on eBay for this $99 price. And where they could have, they might have been able to sell a little bit, higher price point, but it would have been way less. And so, that's where like Dave Kochi came in. He got us in with Great Plains and Horizon Hobby. And as soon as we got in with those distributors, like it was a light switch. The revenue dollars that came just exploded. And that gave us the opportunity to move into,
Well, your most innovative product yet.
Right.
The nitro fuel bottle.
Yes.
Yes. The fuel bottle was, and that one was one that just sold for years. I mean, even after we got out of Nitro Motors, we still sold the hell out of those things. It was
such an oddball deal.
Yeah.
So
I saw one on eBay just recently. Actually, I was like, you know what? I don't need that, but I might get it.
They copied everything.
Now the Axial product. So you were, like you had said, you kind of did a lot of it, but then you focused mainly on design for the duration. Then after that, correct?
Yeah. So it was probably about end of 2006 when I said like, look, I've been trying to hire engineers to do the product and trying to find, a good engineer in the RC industry just seems really, really difficult. And I had gone through like 3 or 4 people, and I said, look, it's going to be easier for me to hire a marketing guy than it would be to hire an engineer, and I can just go back into engineer. And then that's when Jeff said, well, I actually always wanted you to be an engineer. But when I interviewed you, you said you wanted a marketing, because my intention was I was going to build up my marketing thing and try to move out of California, so
one of these days.
So it worked out well. I went into design. We hired a guy named Greg Taniguchi. He was the one that was responsible for really setting the tone of the messaging. He did all of those early ads of like, here comes the storm, and just all of the messaging and stuff that he did was just super well thought out and really put us on a track of like, positioning us as like the people that are more diehard than some of the other guys that were entering the market at the time. So
yeah, it was kind of a weird time in RC. It just throughout that, it was right at the early points of LiPo where they weren't really, so we were still running a lot of like 2-3A packs at the time. So runtime still kind of sucked, but LiPos were just starting to come in, which seems like that really changed so much when, LiPos really started to take off.
It opened the door big time.
But it's like, we were still crawling with stick packs or 2-3A packs for comp crawlers. And, we were trying to hang them off the knuckles like, brass weights now, just because we were like,
right.
Where the hell do we put these batteries? But it was.
Yeah, we had the original design that we had shown at RCX actually had like the old school saddle packs on the sides. Yeah. And, they was split. So there was 3 cells on each side of the chassis. And then by the time we actually went into production, like that car had been completely redesigned and changed, and it went to a regular stick pack across the top, which was just mainly because we knew that if we ever wanted to get to an RTR point, like we needed to use whatever batteries were out there.
But you sold those individual hump pack plates as option parts.
Yeah, we sold all kinds of stuff. Yep. Yeah, I mean, our option parts in the early days, I'd say accounted for, 30% of our business. I mean, we were selling 3,000 links a month Like remember the bent links,
the high
that we had in
clearance
the
links
back?
in the different colors.
Yeah, the high clearance
Now
links. We were selling
the machined ones or the bent pipe version.
the bent
Okay,
pipes.
gotcha. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, and then we had the gears. I mean, the gears we were selling like just, I mean, it was insane. And that's where like Greg was really good. I mean, he had put together this poster. I don't know if you remember, but like that we had that RCP event we went to down Lake Matthews, I think it was, and somebody had caught that like baby rattlesnake in their hand.
Was it Matthews or Wolford?
Wolford,
Wolford,
that's what it was. Yeah. And he had caught that little snake in his hand, and we'd taken a picture. He was actually on the poster holding that snake. So, I mean, and yeah, we did a lot of things with like posters and stuff that we could put into hobby shops back in the day that they could use as marketing materials. And
yeah, I mean, there was honestly, I don't think any, maybe Traxxas, but I don't think any company has done as good or as definitely not as unique of marketing as Axial has from inception until
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Greg and
the
then
brand
Rodney,
that's been created. Yeah, those guys did an awful lot to really position you guys properly and really set the stage for the next 15 years basically.
Like Greg took it to a certain point, and then after Greg left, Rodney came in, and Rodney just really took it to that lifestyle standpoint, and the point where like it really was kind of an easy thing. I mean, at that point of the life cycle of the company, I mean, that's what we did. We all went camping. We all, these trucks were just an extension of what we like to do outside of work, which was off-roading and camping, and his marketing was next level. I mean,
underappreciated until I think almost after he left. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I think
it's the same with like Greg. Greg's marketing was not appreciated until after he left. And it was, so. That's how it goes.
Thanks to both BT and RC Blazin for the support there. No question for each, but both thanks.
And BT and Perry G as well. Thank you guys. Much appreciated.
So the AX10 was obviously the first platform that you guys did, and that was everyone who's, well, not everyone, I guess, that came out in what, 2007 or 2008?
I think it came out in 2008. Or late 2007.
I think it was October 2000. I actually have it. I could look that up. But I think it was like September, October 2007. Because I remember it being at the first Crawlapalooza I was at. John Holmes had the first one I had seen built. And I mean, it was so crazy because before that we would piece things together from Tamiya TLTs, HPI Wheelie Kings, which that was, we would you'd have to buy 2 Wheelie Kings because they were 2-wheel drive to get the parts you needed. They came out with a 4-wheel drive later, but you couldn't buy something out of the box that resembled a crawler.
Well, yeah, I mean, and most people would take like Bruiser chassis.
Oh,
right, the old Tamiya Bruiser.
You're talking scale.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey,
it
was all around the same time.
Yeah.
So.
We were comp crawling at that time.
Me and Josh were on the crawler side. We were the
I don't
scale stuff didn't happen until later.
I don't care. I don't care.
But we did, and after the AX10 came out as that out of the box platform that changed so much. I mean, and even before that AX10, the beadlock wheels, the 2.2 beadlocks that you guys released before that was like the first time we had affordable, reasonable beadlocks you could just buy.
An actual wheel.
I mean, it's just so crazy, and
back then, so I was in charge of like pricing. I was in charge of costs, so when we would talk about where we want to position ourselves in the market, it was always like, well, why don't we position ourselves into something that's really affordable for people? We still make an okay amount, but we're not going to like overcharge people. That'll help keep, some of these other companies out because they'll look at the costs and they'll decide like, yeah, there's just not enough there for us. And we were really lucky. I mean, we flew under the radar for years and years and years. And
a long
because we flew under the radar with all of the other mainstream RC car companies, that also flew us under the radar of all the Chinese knockoff companies. And so it wasn't until many years later when we were large enough to weather that kind of storm that we started to see the knockoffs happening. And, so. But
there are companies now who are just starting to make SCX10, like the original SCX10 knockoffs.
Yeah.
It took a long time.
Almost incredible at that point. So the two that he said, AX10, and then the next vehicle release was the SCX10.
No, the next. Oh, you mean chassis wise?
Well, because you had the AX10, you had the ARTR, you had the Buzzard RTR.
Yeah, the Scorpion, the Buzzard.
So the next one was the S610, and again, I knew that we were never hardcore competitive crawling, right? We were just having fun and just building cars that we enjoyed, and people would use them to compete because at the time there was nothing better.
Right.
But we knew there was things coming that there was other areas, and and then I started noticing at the comps, like all of these dudes would do the competition and then they'd go off and play with these like super scale trucks. And I was like, well, why don't we just create a chassis that uses all the other components that we already have, and then we can make it a scalar. And the first iteration was that CF body, which was not great. It would have been a lot better had we been able to bring everything that we had intended for that car to market. Like we had an interior, we had that gun rack, and all of those little, cool accessories that should have been included in that car, but those took way too long. So we just had to get the car out, so it got released without them. And that body was really designed originally to be also used on a monster truck. So
right.
You don't say.
Yeah, it wasn't a totally super scale body. But
that was the first SCX10 I bought.
Yeah, and the platform and the base was there, and so guys like the other Matt K here that can take that platform and build off of it. I mean, and we made it again affordable. It was priced right. So
there was a question in here earlier. The Betty, the first that came on the AX10, that was a, what was I don't even remember what the first license body was. I know that was later, but what was I think it was the Jeep was the first license body.
The Jeep, yeah.
But what was the Betty initially based off of?
I mean, it was like a Dodge Power Wagon, and then it was just, at the time we were super afraid of licensing. Right. Which hindsight's 2020. We could have got away with so much stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so we were working with a guy that actually had designed cars for Hot Wheels. This really old dude, and he threw all kinds of different elements in there. And at one point they brought it to us, and they had put this thing across the hood that was supposed to look like air filter tubes or something like that, because he was trying to clear the shock towers. It looked absolutely terrible. I mean, it was horrible. So we made him remove that, and we're just going to lift the body up, and so it was a combination of a bunch of different, trucks from the past, and that's where we were always kind of good. We were always kind of good at taking all elements of all these different trucks and putting together, getting a good, realistic looking car, because some of the other stuff that came out at that time didn't look realistic at all. So
yeah, that's true.
It looked realistic to whoever art directed it, but to the general people,
that still happens sometimes with certain companies and certain body releases. But
let's not name any names. but they sound a lot like May wrong steps.
Yeah. Did you see my comment that maybe that was a V10 or diesel excursion? Because
it's the expedition, though. It's not even the excursion.
Yeah, it's not even an excursion.
Oh, yeah. Okay, never mind then. Yeah, they screwed up.
Real quick, Schultz wants to know if you still have your Blazer.
I did. I saw his.
And if you've hard mounted the battery yet.
No, I still am using Rodney's ratchet strap.
My wife actually had a question to ask you, and that is if you've made any progress on your creeper van.
Yes, I have actually. Yeah, I don't know. Did you guys saw it with the wheels and tires?
I don't know. It still had the old school tube TVs mounted in it last I saw, but.
Oh yeah, no, those are all gone.
Okay.
So I lifted it. I put wheels and tires on it. I tiled the inside. The floor is all nice wood grain tile now. I built a bed in the back that's got plenty of storage. It's got a TV that like slides out.
This
is a conversion van for everybody who's wondering.
Van life, man. Hashtag van life.
Not just some white van.
I mean, it is a white van.
White? I think it is white.
But it
is white. Yeah, I was contemplating putting more into it, painting it gray and stuff like that, putting a roof rack.
You were thinking of airbrushing a lady on the side.
Yeah.
Oh, in like a fur
pounder.
Yeah.
With a tiger on a chain.
There you go. Yeah.
Porthole windows.
Yeah. But I'm actually it's gonna be going up for sale soon because we got a trailer now. So.
Oh.
The wife was like, no. Yeah. I think the last time we camped in it, I went to like get out of the bed and I was just like, man, I can't even get dressed in this thing. I'm too old for this shit. Like I need like a trailer or something I could stand up in, and so yeah.
Rich Trujillo wants to know if you miss working with him.
I do, yes, actually, for sure.
Yeah. Rich is one of the good ones.
Yeah,
he makes the list for sure.
Yeah,
people that you probably would miss. So okay, let's go back to the history here. So SEX10 has come out. You've done a bunch of variants on that. Jeep was the first official license that you did. Yep. Is that right?
Yeah. So I mean, so after that came out, that pretty much became our focus, right? I mean, it was just ended up dominating in the long run. Actually, after that, we came out with the Wraith.
Right.
Which the Wraith took off like crazy. We did that before, and then right around 2009, 2010 is when we hired Brandon, and his first car was the XR10. And then we just continued to really, like, the Wraith and the SX10 line were our two massive sellers at that point. So the Jeep was the first license.
Yeah. The SCX10, the Wraith, and the EXO were kind of all side by side for quite a while. Trying to think, the next platform that you guys ran with those until 2011 or 2012 with the Yeti.
Would have been the Bomber.
Yeti
Yeti was first.
Yeah. Bomber didn't come out till like 2015.
So 2010 the Wraith came out. Right around that same time was the XR10. Then in 2012 is when the EXO launched.
Yep.
And then after the EXO, we did the Yeti.
Right.
Which was, like that was always the intention, was like get to this Yeti. Like, as soon as we had that EXO front end, like we cut that EXO in half and we put that front end on a Wraith and started running that thing around. Yep. And that was also around the same time that there was other guys building them on rccrawler.com.
The Rexos, as they were called at the time.
And all that stuff. And so that was just kind of a natural progression of where it went. And then, that car took off like crazy too.
Yeah.
So
the Yeti lived until last year? Year before?
No, a couple years ago. It was 2000, maybe 2016 or 17. I mean, we were sold in 2018 to Horizon Hobby, who had the Losi Rock Ray.
Right.
And so we were talking about, prior to them buying us, updating the Yeti. But it would have required, a lot of work to get it to the point where, they had done such a good job on that rock ray that, we would have really had to take it and do a complete reinvestment and everything. And that's where we were kind of like, is that market still strong enough to support the, almost $1 million investment we would have had to made in manpower and design time and tooling? Would we be able to recoup that in any kind of realistic time frame? And I was always on the fence of like, I just didn't see that return on investment. And then we got sold,
right?
And then the decision was easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well, there's no more money for that.
There's
now.
We've made that decision. Now,
Josh, wait. Thanks for the $20. Much appreciated.
The discussion of, it seems like with the way that things happened in the market, kind of behind the scenes, the part that people don't see with Kingstar. Did you ever get into any of that?
For those of you who don't know what Kingstar is.
I was there the whole time. I was the frontline guy that dealt with Kingstar,
Right.
So I know.
No, I know you know about it.
Yeah, I know everything.
Right. I just didn't know if it was ever anything you've discussed.
Well, like, what did you want to know? And then
so for those that don't know, Kingstar was an RC manufacturer.
Right. They're in Taiwan.
Yes.
And they make a lot of parts and kits and all kinds of stuff, not just for Axial at the time, but lots of other vendors as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were HPI's main supplier. They made for Proline. They made for Kyosho. They made, all kinds of people. Tons of different Taiwanese brands. So at one point they were making for Horizon Hobby, Low C, and all of their brands. Spectrum, they made some Spectrum radios. So they were doing a lot, quite a bit of business. They were decent quality, and they were pretty well run, like as far as production wise, pretty well run. But their management was terrible. They didn't really pay attention to the financials very well. And, so it was like, it would be super flush with cash, and then all of a sudden they were desperate for money. And then super flush with cash, desperate for money. And years later, when when Great Plains bought us, Hobbyco, I was doing an evaluation on our pricing, because that's the other, they never changed our pricing, right? For 10 years, they didn't change anything. And they wanted to raise the price after the sale, and I started evaluating things, and they were claiming currency fluctuations and stuff. So then I did like a study from 2005 to 2012, or 2012, 2013, compared it to the currency fluctuations. And I started to notice that every time that they were out of money, the currency fluctuated. And then when they had a lot of money, it went the other direction. And so they were completely oblivious to the fact that they went from making $10 or $15 a car to losing $5 a car. They never adjusted the pricing. And so, it was at that point that I was like, oh man, well, this explains so much, so.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's, the actual, and then they caused a lot of issues during their collapse, right?
Yeah. They had several points where, they like after the sale of Axial, they got the cash flow or cash influx that they needed, because at that point they had the highest sales they had ever had to all of these different companies they were selling to. But they had an issue in
the first sale.
Yeah, the first time, 2012.
When they sold to Great Plains.
To Hobbyco, yeah. And they had tried to implement a inventory control system. So they took all these orders in, looked at their inventory. Oh, we've got everything we need. Okay, let's start producing. And then they actually started to go look for the parts and realized their inventory system was completely wrong. And so they were sitting on, this massive amount of sales, but they were missing, like $1 million in parts. And so that, and at that point there was no bank. They had already exhausted all these avenues of borrowing money. And I mean, they were, come to find out years later, they were into some like underground banks and just bad business. Bad business.
Oh boy.
So
that's tough.
Yeah. So so in 2012 we got sold. It was unfortunate, really screwed some of us, but Hobbyco was in a position where they could kind of help Kingstar keep them alive for a couple more years and kind of keep everything on the right track. And so we didn't really see a big drop off in our production or development cycle or anything at that point. Everything continued to just chug along, and it was actually decent. It was actually okay. And then, Hobbyco made a bunch of other, and then Hobbyco made very poor business decisions. So
yeah, which we all know how.
Which is unfortunate because Axial always, all along that time, were always doing really great products, always doing really good releases, had really great marketing behind all of those things. And it seemed like, regardless of what you did, the parent company at the time always tended to ruin any gloss that you might have had.
Even if it was as simple as announcing the product before the marketing was ready to release.
Correct.
Like putting out the whole year's product launches in a holiday catalog.
It's like that with. Horizon is much more improved, but Horizon still does have.
They haven't fired that one guy at Tower Hobbies yet.
There's still, at the end of the day, there's still a distributor that's phenomenal, right? They do great distributor work. To understand how a brand works is completely different than a distributorship. And so that's where like a lot of the
miscommunication
and different processes happen at different times.
What do you mean you don't want us to show all your products right now?
Right. Yeah.
We're trying to sell this stuff here, Matt. Come on.
I mean, even now I see stuff come out, that like Brandon will send me say, hey, did you see that card? And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And it's on Horizon, but it's not on the Axial page. And it's like, the downside to that is it's not that Horizon doesn't do that they do a bad job. It's just they do a different kind of job than what everybody expects from Axial. And so when an image or a branding opportunity is lost to Horizon putting one of their photos out versus an Axial, piece, that then becomes the recognizable thing throughout the whole entire world. And it's really hard to get your better looking image or the one that you spent a lot more time and really focused on getting correct to replace it. And so
I'll share a little insight here on that. When the SCX-10 II was first released, there were some spy photos that came out of Taiwan or whatever,
the box art. Yes.
Yeah. And you saw the white Cherokee
body
on the front, which was what's his face from Monster, right? Didn't he own that Jeep?
No, it was a guy named Matt. Yeah, Matt Chapman.
Matt Chapman.
Yeah, he owned that.
Yeah. Anyway, that box art came out, and Rodney emailed me. He said, "You got to put out like 15 different versions of that box art. Put a different truck on the front of it. Spam the internet with multiple versions so people aren't really sure that that's actually what it is."
Yes.
So I'm like madly photoshopping these images to put like a modern day Cherokee on the front, or like a Grand Wagoneer, or like I'm trying to like come up with all these like really wacky options just to make sort of like the market be big enough so the teas wouldn't get the kind of traction that it would normally get. I don't know if it worked, but I do remember putting together a bunch of different options just in case.
I do, because Axial at the time had like a super cool little idea, because before that tease had got leaked, or before that that was just a spy shot that, really crap roll of the dice.
Garbage image.
But Axial had like a special night that they had planned, and it was going to be however many people, and it wasn't even announced as a truck release. It was just going to be this like secret little
come and hang out.
Yeah.
Come and hang out and drive your truck around.
And it was advertised no phones allowed.
Yeah.
And it was cool, and it was going to be this cool thing. And then that came out, and they were just like, ugh. And then I remember they still had that night, but it was more apparent that it was going to be the release of the SCX-10 II, and it was allowed phones. So like that day or that night, all these pictures of people taking pictures of the projector setup that was going on were released.
Yeah, we tried to spin it as a that night was going to be, let's get from the people what they want in the next thing, and a lot of people I don't think were totally new like that we had that Cherokee out, right? And a lot of people were like throwing out some actually decent ideas, and I was like, damn, I should have put that in.
Man, shoot,
we should have done this before I designed this. That was again another thing that Rodney came up with that just was so different from the norm.
And if it would have went off the way that it was supposed to, Rich is in here as well, and he was saying we were supposed to do that for the SCX-10 III, and then COVID hit, because I was planning to make that trip, because I may have been aware that was going to be that particular event.
Right.
I think I was going to fly down for that too.
Yeah, because it was right before Scale Nationals, I think.
Because I had the truck, I was going to bring it with me because I had one of the prototypes. Good question here from Jerry's Old Guy Review. He wants to know what the R&D time was between the SCX-10 and the SCX-10 II. Like, how soon after the SCX-10 and all the variants that came out did you start working on the next one?
Oh, not for years.
Yeah, the SCX-10 ran like 7 years or something like that.
Yeah, it was a long time. It wasn't until right before the Traxxas truck came out when we started. Because
two? Really?
Yeah, the two. I mean, it was way late. I mean, it was actually, I think.
That's about.
No, I take that
timing's not right. Yeah, that timing's not right.
Yeah, no,
I take that back. It feels like that because we went down in our production, and then the Traxxas came out, and then it was that long until we had another version of the SCX-10 II out.
Right.
But I mean, it wasn't until.
Rich is thinking you might have been thinking the Ascender.
No. So I mean, no, definitely not the Ascender. Like we heard it. We heard the Losi was coming out, but we were nowhere near the point where we were ready to start redesigning anything. And then the Losi was the first one that we thought, okay, well maybe this will be an actual competitor that will really hurt our sales. But it didn't. And then there was all these other random companies that came out that just didn't really affect our sales, and so we were kind of like, again, we don't need to do anything with it just yet. And then I think it was 2000, maybe 14, maybe 13, when we started the design work on it, because it was launched.
Yeah, it was launched in 16.
2016. Yeah,
2016. So it was probably around mid 2015 that we started doing it. And, we talked about like, well, how far did we want to take it? What did we want to keep? What did we not want to keep? And we were kind of like, at that point we were like, well, we have such a huge following with so many different components that we should really kind of keep what we can. And so that's why like it ended up with, like, we made that new two-speed transmission, but we reverted back to the other one just because of a cost standpoint. It was much more effective for an RTR. The other one was, I don't know, like double or 2.5 times the cost, something like that, than the 3-speed, the 3-gear one.
Yep.
So, and it I think that it would have had a lot much more depth to it, and a lot if Kingstar and Hobbyco had not had their issues, because we had like lined up, just as we normally do, a bunch of product launches after that, and it wasn't until like 2000, when was that, 17, when we end of 2016, 2017, where we started shipping product out again.
Yeah, that was the big thing, because the SCX-10-2 was announced in mid 2016, but basically, like, some came out, but you couldn't get one. Like, and that was when
couldn't get one until like it was months until you had enough stock to actually like get them out there.
And it was crazy, which was tough on, it was tough on a lot of people, because like people didn't want to buy SCX-10-1 things because that's dead, and then the SCX-10-2 is going to come out, so it's just like, and it was just such a.
I remember going to that year's Axial Fest and having one, because I mean I think I got an early release or whatever, but there was like basically nobody else had one. There were none at that year. It was very strange.
Yeah. So the backstory behind that is that, we had, I want to say about $2 million in our cost of orders with Kingstar at the time. And Kingstar's, business was just, we were basically their only game at that point. So they were struggling. And so they were just desperate with Hobbyco making, constantly like, prepay us, do this. And, Hobbyco was struggling. And so Hobbyco decided that they just weren't going to pay them a payment and let Kingstar figure it out, because they didn't really understand this dire situation. Well, here in America, when a check bounces or something like that, the businesses react differently, right? They'll still continue to do business with you and ship product. But in China and Taiwan, if your check bounces, it is a complete halt to your business, and anybody that does business with you just completely halts. So Kingstar went from producing, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 cars, 5,000 cars a month to the next day 0. And they couldn't ship out, they couldn't put anything together, they couldn't get anything done. So like literally we were just stuck with what we had in the pipeline on the boats and in warehouses. And that was that was the point where I was very thankful that we didn't own Axial anymore. That we were owned by a larger company that, I was still getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
Got out while the getting was good. Here's a good question from Perry G. He wants to know if there were any projects along the way that stalled out that you wish that had actually come to fruition, other than the motorcycle, obviously.
Yeah. No, I mean, we were pretty good with getting things out and getting things done. It was very rare that like we got shut down on what we wanted to do. I think like the EXO project had a lot more legs to it, and I think that had we not bought so heavy in the very beginning, like we could have probably made some of the refinements to that car and kept it going in the long run.
Yeah.
Could have probably used less opportunities for it to just burn to the ground.
It was hard to get to the battery.
Yeah,
it was hard to get at the battery.
Yeah, it was hard to get the battery. It was, and it was all those things that, like, we had another iteration of it that was going to be like a trophy truck kind of thing.
Oh.
That the design was all done and, ready to go. It alleviated everything. Like the cage, like flipped up. It's basically what everybody started doing after we, came out. And but that one project got canceled. And there was a lot of projects that I wish that we could have moved a lot quicker on and a lot sooner. Like the SX24 was one that we had talked about for a year and a half before we actually started it. And that was one that I thought, like, would have been primed a lot earlier. We would have been able to get that to market. But I say 99% of the time, like our product ideas were accepted and made it to market. And it wasn't until much later, like when we got larger and we had a lot of chiefs in the kitchen, that we'd be like kind of running up against things where, like the SCX-10 II, I wanted it to have a front motor. I wanted it to have a lot of what was on the SCX-10 III. But at that point, everybody was like, no, the battery has to be up front, all the way up front. And so, some of those ideas that you had years and years before a lot of other people, it, didn't get completed, but they're never a complete big project,
Right.
What? So.
Well, I think that speaks to the culture, though, that company, though, that 90% of the projects that you guys put forward actually came to fruition. It's kind of like, you're the enthusiasts. You see what the market can bear. You see what other people are doing in the full size world, and the licensing agreements that you had with everybody else, and it's that sort of thing that kind of made that company, and still to this day makes that company great, is that you think about other things other than just what is going to necessarily sell, but what might sell really well because you've already done the research. It's not like it's a company driven by necessarily the bottom line. Obviously you want to sell product, but it's the lifestyle and the kind of the brand that sort of takes precedence. Right. And that's something to be very proud of, Matt. And I think that's something that should be part of the legacy.
Yeah. I think that the one thing that I really see is that, like, we focused on a lot of niche stuff. I mean, we got lucky that the crawler community and scale community ended up being a massive niche, right? But now I'm starting to see, like, a lot of these other companies just try to get into any niche that they can. And I like to think that's because we kind of paved that way of changing people's thinking. I mean, none of the guys that started Axial were hardcore racers or hardcore competitors in the RC segment. We were hobbyists, but just liked RC. We were Traxxas fans. We were T-Max, Monster Truck, HPI Savage. We just like to go out and have fun. It wasn't about having the best performing car. It was just about enjoying the time that you spent with your buddies or by yourself, And I think that's kind of that's the lifestyle, right? That's where Axial's lifestyle came from and what we became. And like Rodney, I still know he tinkers with his RC stuff every once in a while. He probably still has his, I know he has his original SCX-10, and I talk to him every once in a while, and he talks about, I do miss that industry. I miss that segment. And that's the thing, is we were specific to this segment. We tried to go out into other things, but we always came back to this segment because it's what we enjoy.
Yeah, I mean the Wraith and the Yeti and the Bomber, all of those kind of skirted. With the Bomber, Wraith, it was marketed as a rock racer, but it was a rock racer then was much different than what people would consider a rock racer now, I think. The Wraith, I think for me, I mean, it was my absolute most favorite RC vehicle for a really long time. And I think it was underappreciated in a lot of ways that at the time, I think even now would be much better appreciated. Like the first Wraith with the full depth interior, molded separate plastic seats, interior details.
There was a lot to love about that original Wraith.
The original Wraith also,
so many ways to modify it.
The AR60 axles under it that was a huge thing at the time. It was a one-piece axle with a diff cover versus a clamshell design, which almost everything before that I remember were basically clamshell or some variant of that. So it was huge.
Yeah, I think we were the first to do that. And I mean, the Wraith, so there was a lot of debate internally at Axial, and I won't mention any names, but people didn't want us to be known as only the rock crawling company. And so, so that was like the spin that we had to put on it, to kind of like, believe it or not, it was a big struggle to get that car through Axial, and that would have been the one. If we had never made that car, I would have said that was the one that, because that one all came about from Jake Hallenbeck. He had made a scale version of his real car in metal, and we went up to visit him once, and I saw it, and I was just like, we have to make this. Like, we have to make this. I mean, his original car was, I love the full size car. That thing was amazing to begin with. But I was like, as soon as I saw it in a little scale, I was like, we have got to make this.
Now that's a really interesting, like, I do actually remember that one that he made. And I mean, if that was kind of the inception of it, like the difference between where that little one started and what the actual Wraith product was at the end, I mean, hugely different. I mean, now the thought, like the Wraith was a 2.2. Now, granted, 2.2s were still kind of the most popular thing at the time. Comp crawling was still huge. SCX10s were big, but they weren't the focus.
No.
We were still comp crawling. Like, and while the AX10 was a great out of the box thing, like our comp rigs at the time were starting to, or were pretty much took a right hand turn, and we were almost all MOA. The XR10, or XR10 style at least was what was dominating. So the only thing that was selling with the AX10 style axis was the original SCX10, but that Wraith was kind of like almost starting another new segment.
Yeah, it was a shot in the arm too. It was like all of a sudden there's this whole new segment.
Yeah, that car, I mean, again, just another one that flew under the radar. I mean, it wasn't until years later when, like, some people had heard through the grapevine that we were selling a good amount of cars, but nobody knew. I think our peak year was we sold 100,000 units in 1 year, and it was of all of our line. We had the Yeti at that point. We had a bunch of different models, but even the original X10, I mean, we were still pumping out massive numbers back in that first year. I mean, it was kind of crazy. I mean, I think Randall talked about it previously. Like, we were in a very small warehouse, and we would get a truck in, unload it, slap a bunch of stickers on there for UPS shipping, put it into a new trailer, and they would take it that same day because we had nowhere to put them. Like, So.
And I bet you back then everybody was helping. Everybody would have been back there doing it.
Yeah, I mean, we had, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Paul Coleman, but he was this really big dude, came from OFNA. He used to be a professional baseball player, and he was running our customer service. And him and Randall, and then, some of us would go out and help whenever we could. Those two mainly, though, would chuck all those boxes off a truck and chuck them all back on. And
you didn't have time to come down from your upstairs office to look.
No, that was when we were in a really small. That was a really small. That was when we were all on one floor.
It's my lunch break.
Yeah, I think our warehouse was basically a one-car garage, and then we had like 4 or 5 offices, and that was it. Like, so yeah. But I would go back there and help, and we'd all go back out there and help, and it was crazy.
I mean.
Okay, back to the timeline for a moment, if you don't mind. So SCX10-2 is out. The Traxxas TRX4 comes out. Definitely shocks the market a little bit. A little punch in the arm for everybody to kind of do something a bit different. You guys
that was the first major competitor for us that really put a dent into our sales. I mean, the Low C Rock Ray, I think, was out at that point. Mm-hmm. But the Yeti had already kind of run its course anyways. It was several years past when we had released that. So the TRX4 really was the major one that kind of affected us.
Right, and then the development starts on the SCX10-3.
No, so I didn't start that actually until after we were bought by Horizon.
Right.
So that would have been, I think it was
2019 or 2018? 18.
2018, yeah. So that was like May. I think between May and June is when maybe July, maybe I forget.
You had the Capra design
Capra
first before that.
Yeah, the Capra was done.
So I think I started that November of 2018 was when I started the S610 III.
Right. Yeah. Because the Capra you had the previous year at Axial Fest, you had kind of your one.
You had a model.
It was a version 2.
It's 3D printed.
3D printed version.
Yeah.
Much smaller.
I think I had that 3D printed model in 2017.
Yeah.
So, and then I also brought it again in 2018.
Right.
With some changes. I had put the S610 2 axles under it at that point, I think.
Very small in comparison.
Right.
Like the difference between where that started and then where, granted, like a lot of times we have a build that we put together, an idea that we have that while it's kind of the beginning of it, it's not like just what it evolved to. It's just like, okay, starting over, knowing what I know and like, then you start. But
yeah, it's pretty amazing actually, the number of things that I saw at Axial Fest that became things later on. It was, you had to look in the right places, but if you were eagle-eyed and you were, somehow in some way just at the right place at the right time, you could have seen a lot of future products and go, oh, okay, I get it
right
now.
Yeah, that's why they made the R&D department in charge of tech, right? So we could see every single car that came through and go like, oh, okay, and, kind of absorb everything that we saw.
So at what point then did you decide not to do a half-track or a steam-powered Jeep?
Oh, we wanted to. We totally wanted to. But it's hard to top perfection,
This is a good question. So in the early days when you guys were, before you had so many chiefs and things like that, and you could just walk away from a project more, what did you guys think like for an expected lifespan of a product? Darwin was asking.
Well, that is a good question.
I don't even think we didn't think like that at all. I mean, I don't think we, we were just making stuff like.
I get that.
And we didn't really. I don't think it was until like probably 2011, 2012 when Rodney came on board, where we actually started to talk about life cycle, because at that point we hadn't had any kind of competitor to have that kind of curve where sales peaked or started to go down, and so much of what we did was we just come out with a new body and make it look entirely different, but it's still the same underpinning. So we didn't even think about that. It wasn't until much later when we started to get more competitors in the market that we started to think about like, okay, well, when should we realistically look at updating? I mean, and we were like on the R&D side, we were always coming up with ideas on how to improve things. And on new launches, like you would find revised parts on there, like the EXO front steering legs when we did the Yeti. Right. Brandon redesigned all of that stuff.
Yeah, beefier, larger.
Beefier, simplified.
Got rid of the same rack design that was on the EXO to the different one that was in the Yeti. Yeah, that's.
Yes, we tried to, like, whenever we could fit it in, make refinements to things to keep them updated and keep them moving forward. The thing that was down about that is you would find we'd make an update, but an older car that was in production already wouldn't get updated. And so, like, it would have the old drive shafts on it or something like that, and so then it became like, well, maybe now we need to go back and readdress this car.
Right. And it's just like, do you ever do that? Do you ever make a new, go through all the steps of the BOM and of getting all of that done over there? Yeah. I mean, I remember, when the Wild Boar HDs came out on the Deadbolt SCX10 first. But the Wraith all of the wraiths until the wraith spawn had the original wild boars, which just turned into Twizzlers. Like, you know,
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things where it's like you tell the factory, like, hey, you need to update this. And then you're distracted moving on with other things. And then the following year, you're like, why is that still like that? Like,
I thought we told them to.
I'm pretty sure I sent an email.
Actually, all of our cars did not get updated fully with drive shafts until the red SCX-10-2 Jeep.
The JK, yeah.
Yeah, so
2017 JK.
Yeah, so part of the shutdown with Kingstar was our tooling got taken by these underground gangsters that owned an injection molding shop. And so we had gotten out some of our tooling to some other places, and the new factory we wanted to work with, there was a certain handful of components that they didn't have access to, drive shafts being one of them. Shocks was another one, and there was a couple key components. So we redesigned a few different items to get them retooled, and we simplified the mold so it didn't have all these crazy number of parts. It just had what you needed on it. So that drive shaft was one of them. It just came with just enough parts to cover a couple different RTRs. And so once we got all of our tooling back and moved into this new facility, and we made this new tooling for the drive shaft, they started to realize, well, hey, this part's a lot cheaper. Why don't we can we use this one part and update all the other drive shafts? And we're like, yeah. So that's when finally everything got updated to the new drive shaft. And that was
after
You're like, yes, please.
And that was after everything, when it was actually a new company that was...
Yeah,
right. It wasn't Kingstar anymore. It was...
No, yeah. So we got very lucky. There was a company over there that basically they're a publicly traded company. They, so a couple of people from Kingstar left. They were going to form a company, and Hobbyco was so wishy-washy. I said, look, rather than you guys risking your own money and constantly struggling, I think you should partner with this other company that was interested and let them take the brunt of it. So they actually went into Kingstar. They paid them an exorbitant amount of money and said, we're going to buy everything that you have working production-wise and give you this large sum amount. However, $500,000 of it is going to be written to this company that has the molds because they own a couple other companies, for all of their companies. And the deal is when we come here, the check that we give you, we're going to have one for them. They have to have all of the tooling here. And then they took the tooling out and just dispersed it amongst, So yeah, without them, I mean, we would have never got back any of our tooling.
It's just
wild.
So,
and there's still companies over there that haven't gotten their tooling back. That little company is forcing them to buy their product through them. And, we, like, the one thing I noticed throughout this whole process, we had to resample all the parts again. And I started noticing, like, the parts were just way better. Yeah. And, like, we hadn't really paid attention that over the years, Kingstar would move our tooling from one vendor to the next vendor to the next vendor. And every time they moved it, the quality would drop.
Right.
The materials would drop. And, so...
I remember reviewing the 2017 JK. And I remember, I think I might have mentioned in the video that I felt like it was retooled or newly designed drive shafts. I could tell that something was different. And I remember you sent me a text afterwards going, same design, new, and you just vendor. Updated me on that. I was like, oh, but it was, seeing that year was a crazy year, because that was when Matt and I actually started kind of talking, because I was like, within like 3 months, they had sent me the Deadbolt SCX-10-2, the Honcho SCX-10-2, the 2017 JK SCX-10-2, and Matt and I were both like, we had been talking a little bit like, what are we going to do with these trucks? We're like,
I was like, I don't need another SCX-10
So
I've got.
We came up with the
6.
idea for Monthly Mayhem with the drag bolt and the Honcho budget build. Because
it's like, this is the only way we can make this.
What are we going to do with this many SCX-10-2s?
Yeah.
So
that was a very strange
it was. We just went from getting nothing to getting everything.
We were just excited to get product out again, you know? And but the one thing about it is that it really screwed up. Like, we had all of these ideas, right? And by the time we finally could start moving again, like, they were kind of all outdated, you know? And we did the best we could, but
I still think, though, of all the SCX-10-2 variants that came out over the years, that JK, the 2017 JK, was the best one by far,
all around. It had
like, if you're buying an RTR, it had everything.
It was the let's see,
Metal Gear transmission.
It had the sintered metal gears in it. It had the 3-piece axle housings, which are better. I actually like the 1-piece as well, but they had the 3. It had machined.
Yeah, the 3-piece were.
It had
just
machined gears in the axle house, and it had universals. The Jeep body was great. CRC bumpers were excellent. It was just, that was the best kit. The build,
100%.
You know.
Yeah, and then the price point on it was really good, and you know, but again, this is another example of where, like, versions that came out after that, because of where they were in the design cycle when we started them, were actually not as good. Like, the Blazer that came out was not as good spec-wise. You know, aesthetically it was good, but, like, it didn't have the metal, all the metal. It didn't have, you know, everything that the JK had, and it was more expensive. So it's like, you know, that's where it's that whole time frame just really screwed up our production and development cycles.
That's right. I forgot we got the Blazer too. That was
oh yeah. It's so weird. I did a whole project on that one too. I was like, I don't know what
you turned that into the mud truck.
I'll make it a mud
exactly.
truck. Exactly.
Yeah, and then
I'll use parts that were not intended for an SCX-10-2 on this truck, and I'll make it work.
Yeah, we
and then after that we had the UMG. Yeah. We had the Ford. You know, those are all under Horizon.
Right.
You know, so once Horizon came in, like. And Horizon did a great job. I mean, they really just pushed forward the development cycle. But at that point, like, we were so far down on manpower. I mean, Brandon had left, Jamie had left. It was really just me doing the design work, and you know, so we were really, really down. And
I like the bug.
Again, they were all open. They were all open to, like, whatever you want to make. You know.
Yeah.
So, again, they're very like their development team over there is really strong, and it's a little different. It's driven by the product developers, not the designers. At Axial, the designers were the product developers. Like, we managed the product from design to production through to the end. Horizon's a little different. They have product developers that manage the project, and then they have product designers that do the design work. And so that was a little weird for me, because I was so used to being involved in everything from start to finish. I mean, it was nice to not have to deal with a lot of that paperwork, but I do wish that, you know, there was times where, like, I felt like I didn't get out enough, because for me, I don't get ideas sitting in an office. I just don't. It doesn't work that way. I have to get out and, you know, participate and stuff like that, and on the weekends and stuff, like, my time is sucked up by my son and my family, and you know, so really that get out kind of stuff needs to happen as part of my work day and work schedule, and that's where Horizon was a little different in the way that they did things. Not that I couldn't go do those things. It's just, you know, it was all new for me, and really I was so excited to finally be able to get back to doing some design work and stuff. So,
do you think, given the right opportunity, that you would come back to this industry?
Yeah. I mean,
right, I'm starting this company.
The one thing is that I've learned about I have newfound respect for Jeff Johns and everything that he did at Axial. Being a business owner now is so difficult, and there's so many other things that you have to focus on and it's so stressful. And so like Jeff, I always said, like, if I was running Axial, we would have either been the biggest company in the world or out of business. And now I'm pretty sure that we probably would have been out of business, because it's what he did and what he focused on and how he kept us solvent and always had the money to do the things that we did. There was a lot of grief given to him over the years, but kudos to him for doing his part in what made Axial. So
it's amazing. We've talked previously about the things people did that were unappreciated at the time, and that's
right.
That's the thing.
That could be a big one.
Yep. Yeah.
It's not just marketing.
Yeah. So
every day you got to count the beans, right? And at the end of the day, if there aren't enough beans, you've done something wrong. So sometimes some things have to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I still, follow things not as much as I did before in the RC world, but I still do. I still come home and I play on SolidWorks all the time. I still see trucks driving down the road, and I'm like, oh, that would be great on, this chassis, or, oh, that's a good idea. So, yeah, I would love to, at some point, I think, get back into it. I was pretty burnt out when I left. But sometimes, you need to go off and do other things to realize, like, how good it was and what was good and realize what you can contribute. Right. So
that's,
yeah. So, I'm for now, I got to focus on my business and make sure that that's successful and do what I can.
We haven't actually discussed, like, you left the industry in 2019, right at the end of 2019, right?
No,
it was 2020.
January 2020. Yeah, January.
Yeah.
It was basically just as the SCX-10 had been sort of like gold mastered and then sent off to be manufactured.
Yeah.
That's when he's like, all right, see you later. If there's any problems, it's not my fault.
And then you decided.
Yeah, I think I finished up whatever project I was working on at the time, and they put me onto another project that just I was really burnt out after SCX-10. I put so much into it, and
it's a lot of work.
And for the life cycle, the design cycle at Axial is super different than Horizon, way different. And I basically compressed like what would have been a 15-month cycle in half, and it still was way longer than what they normally allow. And so I was super burnt out, and then I got put on a project that I just didn't have a vision for it. Wasn't inspired by it. And, and then and always in the back of my mind, I had always wanted to own a business and be my own boss, be in control of my own thing. So I decided that was the point where I needed to, go ahead and pursue that. So I left in January, and I went off to training for my new business, and I started my new business March 9th, and March 12th the lockdown started. Yeah.
And I remember talking to you then, and I was like, oh God, the timing could not have been worse.
No, yeah. And I've talked to Matt, off and on throughout this last, year, and every time I would talk to him, I just would unload on him on fucking politics and God damn this shutdown, that. And he's kind of more on the other side of like, well, they got to do this. And,
he's on the other side of the
he asked me to be on earlier, and I was like, I just not in the right frame of mind. I don't think
you were not in the right headspace then. So
yeah,
I'm glad we postponed, because it really has been amazing talking to you, and it's so great to get this insight. And I think for everybody who's watching, this is like privileged information. This is stuff that Josh or I would be a part of a lot of the time.
And like we wouldn't normally say this, but we bring somebody else on. Hey, we didn't say it. He said it.
Yeah, it's not us. We didn't say it. Yeah, which is really great. But one of the burning questions that I don't think we've actually gotten
pretty sure I know this question
is, Matt, have you watched the movie flying cars?
No, I haven't. What is that?
Oh,
I don't even know what that is.
You got to, okay. So it's on iTunes. I think it's on Amazon now too, right?
Pretty sure. It's the prerequisite for a second visit.
Yeah, if you're going to come back on this show and talk to us more, you have to have watched Flying Cars. So you can Google it later, but it's basically a movie loosely tied to the RC world. Very loose.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's required watching, so definitely suggest you check it out.
I'm gonna go look it up right now.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And then I'm not gonna watch it.
Don't worry, most people don't.
You have to watch it. Watch it with the wife.
Okay. I'll probably watch it tomorrow at work.
There you go.
Yeah, this is so for those of people watching that don't know, like I bought an Amco auto repair business, and it is the strangest business in the world. We go from like absolutely pulling our hair out, crazy busy, to literally no phone calls for 3 or 4 days. And it's so, and I don't know if it's because of, the shutdowns and the current state of the market, or if this is how the business is normally, because I'm new to the industry, but yeah, it's so strange. And so like last
week in Southern California for.
Yeah. Actually, so I'm in Upland. If anybody wants to stop by and talk shop or anything like that, meet me, come on by. Love visitors. I have a guy that runs the store for me. I focus on the back end, the advertising, the business kind of stuff. He runs everything. So far, the only guy that's come to see me is the Don Father. And, he spent some time with me. That was good. But yeah, so come see me.
There you go. Yeah,
I wish I could.
Yeah,
I wish I could. I'd be down there in a heartbeat. It's always good talking to Matt. So I hope that you'll be back on the show. We'd love to have you back because there's tons more stuff that we could probably talk about. Keep you busy.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, I wanted actually to talk to Josh and to ask how much my Ripper's worth now.
That's right. We did send you a Ripper.
Yeah. So I don't know, like did anybody else order an orange body with gray cage?
Yes. Oof, probably yes.
That was a combo that was made. What number is your Ripper? It's pretty low. We sent you an early one.
57, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I take it out of the box every once in a while just to drool on it.
It's not even built, is it?
No, it's not even built.
Oh,
you're gonna have to send.
I am gonna. I've been clearing a place at my shop, and I wanna like start doing some RC stuff there and putting it on the Instagram because it worked so well for Casey when he put up RC stuff that I want to see if it translates for me. And so basically, I want to, log my build on my Instagram under the Amco store to see what kind of effect it has.
I'm happy to help. I'm sure there's things you're missing because I know I didn't load that box up with the other stuff that you needed.
I don't know. I think I've pretty much. I don't know. You have to look. I've collected like the axles. I've got wheels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get some orange wheels when they weren't available.
Yes, I know.
So,
did you get the? Do you have the printed battery tray or the stamped metal one?
Printed.
Oh no, yeah, very, very. Mine was very early, so it's got the printed stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Josh, you got to update him with that.
I know. So.
Because then it'll go from the value will go from because you could easily sell it right now, like literally right now on this channel probably for $7,000.
Yeah, dude, that's absolutely crazy. I can never sell that car.
No,
I would never part with that car. that one has a lot of value for me because it was given to me from Jim and Steve, and they were good friends and good partners for us for so long, and I was so honored when they gave me one. I was just like, because the car is beautiful. I mean, just absolutely beautiful. Anybody that knows machining and I show it to them and I tell them like, hey, this started as 100 pounds of aluminum, they're just floored, absolutely floored.
Yes.
But it also means that I probably will never drive it because it's just it's such a work. To me, it's such a work of art, you know. And you know, I have a VS410. I'll drive that, and you know, but this one I'll probably. And then if I ever do want to drive one, I'll just drive Josh's or Brandon's.
Yeah, perfect.
You know?
It's like when Brandon handed the radio of his, which was just freshly done, brand new, all black, everything perfect. Handed it to Badger.
Yeah,
just always
I
the
know.
wrong
I was
move.
there for that. That was a big mistake.
Oh, it was the wrong move.
Well, you don't say no to your dad, dude.
Yeah.
You know, your dad says he wants something, you got to say yes. Speaking of Badger, have you guys heard from him lately?
I talked to him maybe 6 months ago, maybe a little.
Yeah,
I talked to him for about a year, probably.
Yeah.
I miss y'all. Every once in a while, I come across, like, I've seen Brian Jones. I don't know if you know Brian Jones, Matt, but
RC.
I see Brian Jones out at King of the Hammers. He was working for a company that did side-by-side parts. And then I'll see, you know, just some of the old RCP guys every once in a while, and you know, but it's so many good people throughout the years that I've met, and you know, apologize if I forget anybody, but I mean, there's so many good memories. I mean, the RC Crawler Nationals, and
you know,
there
was such good times there. Some people are asking, I don't know if we might not have you in. There is a private Facebook group for Vanquish Ripper chassis owners. We'll have to add you.
I'm in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, they're good. I was just making sure. You know.
Yeah.
It's a secret club for nerds.
Yeah, I'm in it. I you know, I surf it every once in a while. I don't ever comment because I'm like, if I post something in here, I know Brandon's gonna be like, "You haven't built that yet."
Big Joe in here, he was very kind to post up your Instagram handle, which is Bronco Matt 1970.
Yep. So
clever. He has a Bronco.
I have a Blazer now, right?
Right.
But
right.
before that, if you all remember the HPI Bronco body,
yep,
that was modeled after my Bronco that I had when I worked at HPI. That hood scoop thing on it. Yeah, I asked them to put that on there specifically because that's what mine had.
Is that kind of like, was that the Wild Horses hood?
I don't think so. I never could figure out which one it was. I think the Wild Horses has like a kind of a ovals in the front of it or something. Like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hey Matt, do you remember? I think it was Axial Fest 2018. That guy that had that narrowed Bronco, the old school Bronco crawler, and he had narrowed the whole body.
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah.
Which one, Matt?
I was thinking about that today. It was at Axial Fest. He was just like, you know, camping, just, you know, like a part of the event. And I think it was orange, if I recall. And he had narrowed the body. And it was like a full size.
Okay.
Full size, yeah.
I mean, that's common.
I've seen a couple of those.
That's common in early Bronco world.
Yeah. It looked really good though. You'd done a nice job on it.
Yeah,
it was fun to talk.
Matt's affinity for Broncos. That's what led to the styling of the Deadbolt, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I asked Jamie to design me a modern Bronco, and that's what he came up with for the Deadbolt,
which was great, and I mean very, very fitting. So I think that was.
And then wasn't it another company had one that was like that? The Great Cot came out with one that looked just basically like it.
Yeah, kind of the on the Wendigo, basically.
Yeah.
Yes, very similar. Agreed. Yeah, and, you know, the cage too, the caged top, all of it very similar, much bigger but small, but similar. Yeah. It's interesting when you kind of know a little bit about, you know, like I've known you since like 2007 ish. Somewhere in there, a little, but then you. Yeah,
so you and I didn't actually meet, I think, in person until one of the RC Crawler Nationals.
We did meet at Nationals 2008 Moab.
And I think, and then through Brandon, we had you design that tire for us.
I did the rip saws.
Yeah, the rip saws, and
boo. Yeah.
Those are actually decent tires. At the time, those were actually really good tires.
Yeah.
Other tires had come to market at that point that, you know, they kind of went by the wayside.
Right.
But
you know, RTR at the same time too, with that, you know,
Yeah.
the compounds and things like that before things had
exactly
so far.
R35.
Right.
Yeah.
Slow down. Thank you very much. It's informative. He was out of the hobby during the time, so people get into history lesson like himself.
It's so fun. I love the history of this whole
absolutely
hobby.
So yeah, and then I met you again in January of 2010 when I came out. It was the day you guys received the Axial RV, which is still kicking.
It's still around.
Did you come out with Jason? Jason Hensel?
No, I came out. No. I came out randomly.
Okay.
I came out for a West Coast qualifier out at Lake Wolford. For that event, came down. You guys were at the Goodyear office at the time. So
yeah.
Brandon had been there for about a year.
Josh, have you slept in that RV?
Never.
I got one on you.
Oh, did you take a pill? Did you?
I think I only slept in that a few times with myself.
I slept in there.
After a certain point, that I was like, I'm not going to sleep in there anymore.
I've been in that RV, and I'm
gross.
like,
yeah.
Did you know the story about how it was parked out back at our last office?
Yeah.
And it was out there for like a few months, and it had been really cold and really rainy. And, I noticed that there was like a cigarette outside, and then like a while later, we were going to actually use it. So Sean Schultz went to clean it out, and he comes in and he's like, Randall or whoever used it last, your friend smoked in there. It reeks like cigarette smoke. And Randall's like, my friends don't smoke. Like, what's going on here? And then he comes back in about 20 minutes later. I think there's a homeless person living in here. And there was. They had broken into our fucking RV. Pardon my language. And you had been living in the RV for who knows how long. There was like a tin of cigarette butts crammed in there. They'd actually tapped into the power that we had charging the battery to run a heater. And so
that's great news. Thanks a lot for telling.
That's what I said.
It was parked right next to our back door that we all walked in and out of every day and didn't know that somebody had been living in the RV.
Cool. Well, I hope that I didn't sleep on the bed that the homeless guy was sleeping on.
I think it was
because this was like right before. This was like November of 17.
Oh, I slept in it in 2018.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Then you got screwed.
The first night I was there, I slept in there with Scott Kirkies, and I woke him up in the middle of the night, and I think he thought I was that homeless person because he jumped up like he was gonna stab me. Like, I'm gonna cut you. I was like, let's go and pee.
My God.
Yeah, we had to have it like professionally cleaned, and it's still just never. That cigarette smell never went away. Like,
Great.
That was a. I remember right around when we first got that RV, and then we did the wrap on it. And,
yep.
We did the axial and the black reflective, and
I have a
I do remember Scott said, "You can sleep over there. You can sleep on that bed.
Yeah,
sleep on that bed."
That one. Laughing as you got in it.
Yeah.
Perry G, thank you. He wanted to know, Matt, were you around HPI when the Blitz prototype with the solid rear axle was done? That was years after you were there, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a long time after
because
me.
the Blitz came out after the Traxxas Slash. Traxxas Slash was sometime around 2007 or so, and Blitz came out kind of chasing it, and you had already actually.
Interesting story about the Blitz or about the Slash. Mm-hmm. We went to an RCX, and we were distributing Robotronic at the time, and we developed a 8th scale, fully independent suspension that had the body that was all big, spare tire, was supposed to be like a trophy truck, and Traxxas was in our booth and associated like pretty much the whole entire show, and then they came out with the Slash after. So I think they were probably already in design stages at that point, but we beat them. Okay.
Oh man.
Well, on that note, I think we'll probably end it with Matt. Thank you
Matt,
so much.
we would love to have you back
for hanging out with us tonight. You got to come back.
Definitely.
We just need you to watch that movie.
Gotta come back.
That's
Just get that under your belt, and then you'll say, "You bastards! Why did you make this? Why did you make me watch
Flying Cars?
Flying Cars?"
I'll run it at like 2 or 3 speed.
Oh, you won't. Yeah, it's not.
Is it like a feature-length film? I mean,
yeah.
Oh my god.
That's why I said watch it with your wife. It's date night.
Oh yeah, she'll love that. Yeah.
Right. It's a love story.
All right, guys. Yeah, keep me posted. I'd love to come back on anytime. It's always good talking to both you guys.
100%.
I was hoping I'd see you guys at the Proline event like last year, but COVID happened.
Yep.
So
Eventually,
I'll be back at some of the events anytime they're in this neighborhood and I can make it. So
for sure.
We'll see you then. Looking forward to it, man.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Matt.
All right. Good to see you guys.
Bye.
Take care, bud.
All right. Bye.
So, it was good. It's the I personally love the history of RC crawling specifically.
Oh.
I have a
weird. And there's so much more. There's a lot more
timeline. Oh, there is a ton more.
There's a ton more.
I do. Have
Do you
ability
remember
for
buying the
timelines.
DVDs? Do you remember buying the DVDs for like the MSD
scale
mats?
Yep.
Oh, You
Yes.
know what? I think I have one. I'm gonna digitize it, or I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna put it in the DVD player tonight. I'm gonna watch it.
That would be an interesting one. The person that used to create those DVDs was named Toyo Fast on RC Crawler. His name
I remember him.
His name is Brett. He lives up in the Pacific Northwest. It would be an interesting one to track down too.
That'd be fun. There's a lot of those old school guys that I would love to talk to.
Yeah.
Like there was this guy, Wyoming RC, who did awesome scale stuff. And I don't know where he is, or I presume he's in Wyoming. But like just to catch up with some of these old names, that'd be really awesome.
Yeah, it's Ryan Garish,
Ryan
still
Garish.
around,
very much still around. DS Pro, I think.
DS Pro, yes.
His Instagram. He has a lot of full size weird trucks now.
Yes, he does. Like weird small ambulance or fire trucks or
German Unimog style ambulance.
Yeah, so weird. It was
I mean, but
crazy.
Badger bought his Unimog. Didn't he?
Wait, no, Badger's Unimog was different than Ryan's, I think.
Was
it the same one?
I think it's the same one.
It could be. Badger had that Unimog for a long time. I feel like it was before, but it's
That's
hard
so
to say.
crazy. Checkered Past, great name. Just mentioned Ryan Garish, so it's like we're all on the same page here.
Matt Kearney just commented we should talk to Jason in Augusta.
Yes.
JIA, as he was always referred to.
Yep.
Jason Carter's his name. He's southeast part of the U.S. now, but he's been all over. But he was huge. He wrote for RC Car Action for years, and he did a lot of custom builds that were, popular or influential or whatever it was. Scratch builder in the time. He did a fully hydraulic steering TXT that was called the Hydro Scorpion, which was just out.
That's outrageous.
Yeah. So much. Yeah. So many cool things.
It would be cool to get a whole bunch of these guys together and actually do like a documentary on the history of this sport. That would be amazing.
I do have a timeline created for that.
Oh, you do?
For that purpose. Like with most of the dates that Matt was talking about, I've got them in a document that I could pull up.
Nerd alert.
I know.
But I like it though.
It is, because it's like at one point I would like to do that. I would like to be able to, go get a hold of Jason Hensel, the founder of RC Crawler, who honestly I think was instrumental in actually firing up this whole segment.
Well, yeah, if it wasn't for that website, honestly, I don't think any of us would be as, crazy about it as we are now.
No, honestly, that website was
like
responsible for
I
so
scrolled
much.
for hours and hours and hours just getting inspiration. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
More so even than the Scale Builders Guild at the time, because that was a pretty tiny website back then.
Yes.
It still is. That was amazing. We definitely have to have Matt back because he's got a lot more stories.
Yes, so many little. I mean, there's certain certain thing, we got into the I didn't know if he would talk about the Kingstar thing.
Yeah. I figured that if all it would take is some prompting.
Yeah. I was just, there's so much to that story. And he even got into some of the craziness of it. But I mean, that story alone just is.
Yeah. He's a wealth
so
of
much more. I mean, there's some outrageous stuff, but so much good about it. So
yeah, definitely. Before we end tonight, though, I do have to announce the winner of the medium-sized hoodie giveaway. I have right here. This is a premium hoodie. I have one. I was wearing it last week, I think.
Yeah.
It's got a good hand feel. Nice big logo on the front, little tiny logo on the back, medium size. And I've already randomly picked someone. It's single _track _media.
There
and
you
I'll
go.
be messaging Single Track Media to let them know that they have won this medium size hoodie. There you go.
Fantastic.
Yes. A good night. Definitely.
Jesse Schultz, he obviously they're on a little bit of a lag, but he just says, if I didn't win, I'm stealing his pants again.
Nice. Consider my pants stolen. I've got a printer to finish building tonight.
And
got a video to upload for tomorrow.
I've drank 36 ounces of fluid. And
I had to make an exit.
Yeah.
I had to go. I had to go.
So
there's time for that. But
another fantastic episode. Let's thank some people.
Good one. Yes.
Let me scroll to the top. Pleco Nation, Sam C, Scale Crawler, Fab Shop, Brian Sherwood, Cody Oscar, David, Dale C, RC Dave Charged Up, Quack RC, BT, RC Blazin, Perry G, Slow Don. And I think that's, yes.
All right. Sam C, Psycho 13 Garage, Quack RC, Perry G, BT, Tim Vanassin. And that's going to do it. Thank you, gentlemen. Been an absolute pleasure tonight. Josh, as always, episode 49 in the books. 3 more episodes, and then it's been a year. We should almost do like a year in review.
I know. I think so as well. It would be. It's turned into something that's an actual show almost.
It's almost like we planned it.
It's almost worth watching.
That's live stream takeover. It's almost worth watching. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you again next week. I'm doing Lightroom Live on Tuesday night again. I'm getting good at it. I'm getting fast.
Good.
Fast and good, but not cheap.
Right. Awesome. Friday night, whole deal. See you guys next time. Later.
Love you. Bye.